Life Audio.
Hello, and welcome to the Confessions of a Christian Alcoholic podcast. I am your host, John Seidel. This is your home for real stories, radical vulnerability, and remarkable comebacks. In the end, this podcast is a place for the desperate, the downtrodden, the destitute, and especially the drunk. But it's also a place of hope and healing. I know that firsthand because I'm the Christian who became an alcoholic, not the other way around. Today, I've found sobriety after decades of struggling. But more importantly than finding sobriety, I found Jesus. My prayer is that as I interview people just like you and just like me, along with professionals in the fields of trauma, faith, and addiction recovery, you will find the peace that is available to you through Christ on the other side of whatever you're going through and whatever addiction that might be. Because let's face it, we're all addicted to something. So welcome. Let's get radically vulnerable as we explore what it looks like to be on this journey of messy sanctification. We'll be right back after this. Welcome back to another episode of Confessions of a Christian Alcoholic. I'm really excited about this episode. It features someone who has become just a great friend and sounding board on a lot of different topics, from how do we write? How do we do this thing where we know we have something to say, we want to get the message out, to how do we handle even some of the negative feedback we get from people in the addiction recovery space? Her name is Christy Osborne. She's an expat that lives in London. And not only am I excited because Christy's just a friend, but she has a story that I think is really important for you to hear. And that is this story. She is the typical suburban mom who didn't have a rock bottom moment. You know, you've heard me say this a lot, and other people say this a lot, is that you don't have to have a rock bottom moment to reconsider your relationship with alcohol. And that was true for Christy. What she found is she's in London working in the marketing field, and alcohol just became such a big part of her life, not in I'm a addict who is craving this substance and has the shakes, but realized that it had taken on an inordinate role in her life, and she wanted to change that. And so she talks about her story, and she talks about how, I'm just kind of this regular woman who realized I have a problem with alcohol. And I think what's really important is having a problem with alcohol can look a variety of ways, and it can look different for different people. And so I'm excited because I think there's probably a lot of people out there who can identify with Christy's story. Maybe you can't identify with the people who had to go through detox, or the people who had to go through rehab, but you just have this check in the inside of you that says something's off here, and that's Christy's story. So I'm excited for you to hear her talk. Before we get there, though, I just want to remind you that you can go to christianalcoholic.com, and there's the podcast section. You can fill out a form and share your story with me, and maybe you could be on a future episode. Also, this podcast is based on my book that is coming out called Confessions of a Christian Alcoholic. Oh, what a coincidence there, right? And I have just recorded and put on that page at christianalcoholic.com a roundtable that I recorded with some of the most incredible people in the addiction and recovery space that are talking about what it looks like to change your relationship with alcohol. If you order the book, or pre-order at this point, and put in your information and let me know that you've done that, you can gain access to a slew of bonus resources. One of them is exclusive access to this roundtable with me and 5 other people, where we talk about for an hour and 20 minutes, all things related to recovery. And boy, is it helpful. There's stuff in there for family members as well. I just think it's awesome. I had such a great time recording this. You'll also get the preface and introduction to the book, so you can literally start reading it today, right now, once you pre-order. There's also a bonus chapter. There's a slew of, I think, 26, it's up to at this point, different resources where I give you my personal recommendations on books and things like that have helped me and that can help you as well. And so I just wanted to just slather, I'm going to use that word, I'm going to slather these bonus resources on you to be helpful. So go to christianalcoholic.com. Once you pre-order the book, you can get those resources. Christy is one of those people that joined me on that roundtable. So after you listen to this, if you enjoy it, you can get more of Christy as well as other people, including Dr. Zoe Shaw, Gina Berkemeyer, just some great people that have shared what they're working on and what they've learned. So go ahead and go to christianalcoholic.com. Without further ado, then, I want to have this conversation with Christy Osborne. Enjoy. Christy, thank you so much for joining me on the Confessions of a Christian Alcoholic podcast. You are my first international interview.
Amazing. I'm so excited about that.
Yes. So thank you. I really appreciate it.
I mean, you can totally hear the British accent /
yes.
Not even a little bit.
It's funny because we were on an email chain, and I think, you have your website is .uk, and I think someone on the email chain assumed you were British, right? And I mean, appropriately, they were explaining hey, we have this thing called Thanksgiving here, and so maybe you will we'll be off for that time. This is back months ago, and I was like, oh, but she's from America.
She can't take the Los Angeles out of the girl. Yeah.
So for people, I will have read your bio in the introduction, but give people just a little overview, and then we'll kind of get into your story. But you grew up in California, and why are you in the UK?
Yeah, grew up in California, went to USC and then Pepperdine for law school. And I met my husband very first day of law school, first year. And we both had an internship in London our first summer, and then his internship turned into a job. And so we said we were going to go for 2 years to everybody. And we were going to go on an adventure, and we love the UK. It's so great. And here we are, going on 16 years.
16 years.
16 years. Yep. My daughter, who's 14, has a full British accent, and it's also a very posh British accent. And so when she's speaking, she sounds like Charles Dickens or something. It's hilarious.
I love that.
And she's an actress, so she's always on stage, and she's always doing British roles. And I'm like, who is that person? How is she related to me?
See, I'm fascinated with British accents. I have toyed with the idea of getting a BritBox subscription. BritBox is this app that you can buy over here in the States that is just British TV shows.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yeah, I love them. And I want to go over to London. I want to go over to England. I've wanted to for years. And pre-COVID, we were scheduled to go in 2020, and then, this little thing called the pandemic happened, and we've never rescheduled the trip. And I'm a big C.S. Lewis fan. I named my son after C.S. Lewis. So I've always wanted to go.
Okay, well, you have to reschedule that trip and then come and we'll take you around.
That would be awesome. That would be okay. Thank you. If nothing else comes of this podcast, if no one gets relief or freedom,
we're having a trip.
Yeah. And it's also fascinating that you don't have an accent, because I know someone else who I've gotten to know through Substack, and they are American, moved over there a few years ago, and they have a slight British accent.
They might be playing it up, they might be putting it on for you. No, I'm just kidding. Although my best friend always says, she's like, why do you, that's not you. You sound British. What are you doing? And I think it's because she knows me so well. But yeah, no, the kids have it pretty much full British accents, but we don't. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. So, Christy, I'm excited to talk to you for so many reasons. You have a book out, and actually, I'd hold my copy up.
Yeah, where is it, John?
Here's the thing, and I think this is a compliment, is there was someone in my circle who was struggling with sobriety, and I felt like your words and your book were a better resource than anything I could say or give to them. So I gave it to her.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that. I'll send you another one.
Okay, thank you. but I think I love the idea of a devotional. So talk a little bit about Love Life Sober and what you're trying to accomplish, and then we'll kind of get into more of your story.
Yeah, I was coaching another Christian gal kind of like early on in my coaching practice. And I was recommending different devotionals that I was reading, and along with like Quit Lit and all of that. And I realized, oh, wait a minute, there isn't one resource that combines the two that I could find at that time. And so I was like, God's, I think, niggling me to write this. And so all the things happened, wrote the proposal, got the agent. It was just wild and crazy. And you know how God does what he does. Like my agent doesn't drink, and like all the people that were like in my kind of like path of doing this like totally got me, which I didn't realize needed to be such a big thing as it was, because some of the big publishing houses that I pitched it to, like I'll never forget, one guy said, what woman is going to hold that book in church? And I was like, oh, well, that's why we need it.
That's the problem.
That's the problem. And so it was just, it was all God, the whole thing. Like he is just so amazing. But, I wanted to write a resource that combined scripture, neuroscience, which was so, so helpful for me when I was on my journey from finding freedom from alcohol, because I think it's so interesting how the brain works and how it reacts to alcohol and how you feel different and better without it. And so I wanted to combine the neuroscience, the scripture, and practical coaching tips that I had learned in my various certifications that had helped me. And so I broke it down into a 40-day fast. There's obviously scripture in every day, and there's also what we call a tiny Tina, a tiny new action. So there's something small, bite-sized to take from every single day. And it's really about taking your thoughts captive, rewiring your brain, and starting to think differently. Question all of these things that we believe to be true about alcohol, as sure as the sky is blue, that it helps us relax, like all the things, all the reasons that we think we like to drink. And really question them in a grace-filled, compassion-led framework where you can get curious and you don't have to be worried about failing at this. Like that's one of the things that I think resonates so deeply with women is even if you drink on like day 12, this is not a failure, because let's figure out what you learned from it. Because like, as you know, the shame piece when it comes to dealing with alcohol is real. So yeah.
Okay, I'm just going to chase this rabbit before we go into your story then, because I think it's important. I think, and I've toyed with like how much to say about this in my writing and whatnot, but my biggest fear is relapse. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is there are plenty of people that I follow, that I know, that I've read, who 3, 5, 12. I mean, there's a story about a guy who was 20-something years into it and relapsed. And I'm kind of like, if they can relapse, I can relapse, right? And and so I know, on a 40-day fast, day 12, you're talking about like, listen, you've learned something from that. Mm-hmm. Maybe like, I think there's probably people, and by the way, in my early sobriety, I did relapse, right? Yeah. Now that was a month and a half in, and I did have more grace for myself than I feel like if I get 12 years down the road, right? Yeah. But explain just, that idea of you've learned something, because I think that's important.
Yeah, and like let's preface all this by saying I am talking to the woman, or man, if you want to pick up a pink book.
I did.
That talks to women, but to the gray area drinker, right? Who isn't quite sure if her drinking is quote unquote bad enough, maybe hasn't had a rock bottom moment, but knows that like alcohol is no longer serving her, but also fears, like the same fear, like for so many of my clients, the fear isn't relapsing. The fear is having to be alcohol free forever. Like that's the fear, you know? Yeah. And so this is about, again, like taking the thoughts captive, figuring out why you like to drink, figuring out if you feel better without it. And at the end of the day, like this is by no means are you going to figure out all the answers to all the questions in 40 days, but this is a nice way to start of just giving yourself some grace to figure out if this substance is still serving you or not. And I think when you truly rewire your thoughts, at least for me, and of course, like everybody is different, but there isn't necessarily a fear. I don't have a fear of relapse, or I don't even really love to use that word. It just doesn't resonate with me personally, but that's because I don't have a desire to drink, right? And so I don't have a desire to drink because I know it holds no benefit for me because I've spent so much time and work like rewiring those thoughts and rewiring those neural pathways, right? And so I think just to come to this from that grace-filled space and look at it in a different way, because I think that for a lot of women, and this doesn't matter if you're a gray area drinker or you're a rock bottom drinker, like the idea of stopping can be really scary. And so it's a nice way to be like, let's just try this. Let's try this together. I've been there. I'm going to walk you through it literally day by day for 40 days. And then you decide, right? Then you decide where to go from there.
That's a good reframing and helpful, and thank you for that, because I think early on in my sobriety journey, I would not say that I was giving it up forever. That was way too scary for me.
Yeah.
And I think that's you know, where aspects of 12-step programs that talk about, you know, really just saying like I'm just not drinking today, right? I can't worry about tomorrow, and taking that approach was really helpful, because the idea. And I talk about this a little bit in my book, the idea of giving it up forever. It was like I was grieving. Like that was a friend. Here's the truth. Alcohol was a friend, a bad friend, right?
Yeah.
A friend that was stabbing me in the back, you know. Yeah. But it was a friend that was there for me during some really rough times when I didn't want to sit with myself, when I had feelings and emotions that I didn't want to deal with. It was there for me, right? Yeah. And so imagining my life without that friend was really hard.
Yeah. 100%.
How do you help people then realize? I mean, is it really going through the the neurological stuff? What is your advice to people in general who are having a hard time thinking about life without alcohol?
Yeah, well, I mean, you hit the nail on the head when there is a grieving there, right? And the grieving might be for different reasons. I tell a story in the book of one of my best friends turned 40, and I was leaving the party early, and I got in the car and I burst into tears. And it was like this feeling of I'm not the girl that dances on the tables and orders the shots and shut the party down and all that stuff anymore. But like knowing I was doing the right thing by going home, I had been to the most important parts of the dinner. And so it was like grieving this loss of like party girl Christy, or the hostess with the mostest, or the party house, or blah, 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 blah. The one that always has all the families over for the never ending drinking, like all day barbecues. Like there was mourning that like persona, like personality that I really, really thought was me and made me likable and made people like me and all of that stuff. And so I think you hit the nail on the head when there is a mourning, because you're trying to figure out kind of who you are without alcohol. But the beauty in that is finding your true authentic self, right? And who God's actually sanctifying you and calling you to be. And that process, as we were just kind of talking about before we hit record, is not fun. The pruning, the sanctification, the learning, all that stuff is hard, but it is beautiful. And so the helpful things, I think, in this book is just looking at it with a fresh set of eyes. One of the first things that we do in the beginning of the book is we write out all the reasons you think that you like to drink. And then a lot of that, and then a lot of the substance of the book is looking at those things, right? Like, are you drinking because you think it helps you relax? Okay, I did that too. I tell a little bit about my story and how I drank to relax, but then I put in the science of this is what it does to your cortisol, and this is what it does to your adrenaline, and this is how it actually makes you more stressed out, so that when you have a glass of wine at book club on a Tuesday, you're more frazzled on a Saturday because of how long it stays in your system and all of that stuff. And so it's just really looking at the science, right? We're supposed to take our thoughts captive and hold it up against the light of truth. And thankfully we have the Bible, but we also have a lot of science, a lot of research, a lot of data now telling us what alcohol is doing to us.
Let's get into that. Right,
okay.
Because I think that's important, right? And I am, I know you've talked with our mutual friend, Dr. Lee Warren. He's a guest on this podcast as well. He's a brain surgeon, right? And so I think the neuroscience fascinates me as well, right? And I was originally going to put some of that in my book, but I ran out of words, and because I ended up being.
We should just leave it to Dr. Warren because he's the best at it, anyways.
Right. I ran out of words. I'm not an expert in it, and I was a little bit more vulnerable about my story than I even planned on being. Right. So it took up some more words. But let's talk about the science. And this will be a general question. You can take it wherever you want, whatever you feel like is most beneficial for people to hear. But what is alcohol doing to us? What does it do to us that, the marketing industry would like us not to know or believe or see?
Yeah. One of the biggest, there was so many huge aha moments in this journey, but one of the biggest ones for me was thinking that I was drinking because it made me more fun and I was having fun while drinking, while not realizing that alcohol was actually robbing me of true joy. And by that, I mean, I got to a point where I didn't think anything was fun, quote unquote fun, unless there was alcohol involved. And that involved things with my kids, like going to their dance recitals or their baseball games. And yes, we have baseball here in London. There's a little league. There's a little American league. But it was there had to be alcohol at anything and everything for it to be quote unquote fun. And what happened is alcohol just completely hijacked my dopamine response, right? So I couldn't actually have fun or experience any sort of joy or happiness because I was chasing that artificial sledgehammer to the head of dopamine that came with alcohol. And what I didn't realize was that it was then therefore making me more depressed and more sad and just more dependent on the substance. And when I learned that, and then when I took it away, and that's the other thing with the book is I'm going to give you the science, but I really want you to go and try this for yourself because it's experiencing is when you're really, you get it, you know it in your soul, right? It's the cellular knowing of oh, yeah, that's true. Is I began to experience joy and happiness without a drink in my hand. And it was little things. It was the sky was a really pretty blue and we don't get that very often over here. So, or, my son telling a ridiculous joke or my daughter giving me a hug and putting down her phone or whatever it is, all the little joyful things kind of it made me realize that my dopamine production was coming back online and I was actually able to experience the joy, the things that God was giving me, putting in front of me every single day. And that's when I was oh my gosh, what a lie. What a lie that alcohol and the alcohol industry tells us that we somehow are going to be happy and have more fun with this class 1 carcinogen in our glasses when it's doing the opposite. It just does the opposite of what we drink it for in all respects. And so that was a huge one for me.
How long did it take for you for that response to come back online naturally?
I think there was a gradual shift. I definitely felt just that initial, oh, my body's feeling a little bit better because alcohol is out of my system after a month. And then I think there is something really true about 3 months, 6 months. And, as people that talk about the alcohol space all the time, everybody talks about the pink cloud and you're going to feel good for a while, but then you really have to have your coping, all your coping skills intact, which is totally true. Don't get me wrong. However, we're Christians, right? We know where to go for peace. We know where to go for joy. And so that's the beauty of this is when you realize, okay, alcohol's not giving this, and then you base it in your savior, your creator, the ultimate comforter, that pink cloud doesn't go away, right? You get to have peace and joy. Not to say that days aren't hard. That's not what I'm saying either, but you know what I mean.
Yes, and I'm so glad you said that. And I think I'm very honest with people too. Like when you look at the science of what you just explained, it makes sense that if you've become dependent on alcohol for your dopamine, right, and then you take that away, like the first little bit, let's say month, right, of of sobriety for me was awful. It was awful. Mm-hmm. And I like some people are like, don't say that. And I'm like, no, I'm going to be honest. Right.
Yeah.
But the reason I say that is also so that you can understand, like, because that's what it did to me. Right. Mm-hmm. Because then I took that away. Right. Yeah. And so that's to your point. I thought I played the comparison game, which a lot of us people that struggle with alcohol do.
Totally.
And I said, well, at least I'm not, or I don't have. Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But when I did take it away, I was like, well, at least I don't have the shakes when I stopped drinking. Well, guess what? I had other withdrawal symptoms that scared me. I was like, oh, crap. I was the one saying, well, I'm not having withdrawal symptoms. And then I had some withdrawal symptoms, right? Or seeing the extra depression that I got when I took it away. Oh, shoot. Well, that's not great. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I think that was eye-opening to me. And that's what I tell people and be realistic with them, like, no, and you're gonna, that's where having a coach like Christy, right? If you're going to take this away, can be really, really, really helpful. Let's get into your story. You had mentioned this a little bit, and I think it's important. And you talked about you were Party Christy. You were shutting down the parties and all that kind of stuff. How did you go from who was Party Christy? What did Party Christy look like? And then how did Party Christy go to writing a book on sobriety?
Yeah, well, only God, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not going to go all the way back, way back. Like I drank a little bit in high school, but it was really only when like I became an expat, moved over here, like post getting married, all of the things, I started writing a blog for American expat women. And so that was when blogs were cool. And so I was like this, like, I hate the word influencer, but I was doing that kind of thing where hotels and restaurants and clubs and everything like that would invite me to come review. And so I was basically going around town, getting all the free drinks, having all the parties, having all the quote unquote fun, and posting it on my Instagram. And so it like looked really fun and really glossy and really shiny and all of that those things. So that was going on. Then in the middle of doing all that, I had 2 kids. The mommy wine culture narrative is real, right? Being a mom is the hardest job in the world. Therefore, we need a drink because it's so hard. We got to take the edge off and all of that stuff. So that was going on. And then what happened is my mom passed away, and we had like a really complicated relationship because she never drank my whole life until I hit like 25, and then she started drinking, and it was like very clear and evident why she had never drank, right? There was clearly some sort of issue there, and it changed her personality. It basically all but destroyed our relationship, and just like horrible back and forth things were going on between the two of us. And so she essentially passed away like because she drank herself to death, and I did not know what to do with that at all. I was mourning the loss of like this mom that I had pre-turning 25, who was my best friend that I would talk to multiple times a day. But I was angry at this person that had made this like choice to basically drink themselves to death and be not present in their grandchildren and her grandchildren's lives, all these things. There was a lot of crazy stuff that happened, and I hit the eject button, and I was just 2 years, 2018 to 2020, I was drinking, and but it looked pretty. So I was like in Ibiza, and I was like at brunch with Posh Spice, and I was like doing all the things and posting about it. I commentated on Harry and Meghan's wedding live from Windsor Castle, 4 different broadcasts. And I woke up on the anniversary of her death in 2020, March 9th, and I was looking at this feed, and I was like, this is all just so untrue, and I'm so sad, and this is not matching, and who am I becoming? And like, I'm not the mom that I want to be. I'm grumpy with the kids all the time. No one sees like what's happening behind closed doors as far as like the hangovers, the fights with my husband, Chris. Like we were like bickering all the time over bottles of wine. Can't remember what you're fighting about the next day, all that kind of thing.
Yes.
I had enough. Like I had enough. I was like, and so I went into the bathroom mirror. I was like, Jesus, I cannot do this anymore. I knew the first domino was alcohol. It was the first thing that I had to just look at. I never said forever. I didn't put a 30-day thing on it. I didn't put anything on it. I think I went like 1 or 2 days, and then I finally said something to Chris where I was like, I think I need to stop drinking for a little bit, but I don't know what that means. Can we please just like not drink in the house for a bit? And then the world shut down. And we had really, really strict, like crazy bananas, like rules here. We could only leave our house once a day to take 1 lap around the park. I mean, it was crazy. There were police like literally around the neighborhoods. It was nuts. So it was my own little self-imposed rehab. And it was
You're like, this is why we fought the American Revolution.
But to your point of like the beginning was hard, and it was like, yeah, I wasn't shaking, but I was exhausted. I felt like I was jet lagged. I was like, I understand why people need to go to rehab because this is exhausting, whatever this healing is going on. I slept like a dead person. Then I was like wired and awake. It was wild.
Yes.
So that's kind of like what ended up happening. And then during those, early COVID years, I just started learning. I started doing research, started reading all the different things about sleep and science and alcohol and all of the things. And I was just like, we have been duped and this is a lie and I don't want to do this anymore. So I started documenting everything kind of on that same Instagram, which was like my American Girl in Chelsea page. And because people were sitting in front of their phones because no one had anything else to do, everyone was like, oh my gosh, how long for? Are you sleeping? Have you gotten like lost weight? Da 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 da. Like, is your skin better? Blah, blah, blah. And so I just started this dialogue with women. I'm like, oh, people want to see and talk to somebody else that's been there. And so that kind of like launched the whole going to get certified and then writing the book and all of the things.
We'll be right back after this.
So, really, it's been, in a sense, a very recent journey,
Yeah.
Like, and I think you're a great example of, it's weird because like COVID is like 5 years ago, but it seems like just yesterday, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But if you would have said, okay, 2015 compared to 2020, you'd been like, oh, those are very different eras.
Mm-hmm.
And yet,
Oh, yeah.
you went from this person who was all about alcohol to now where you are in the course of 5 years. And I think what people, I hope, can realize is that it's like you can make a change, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it doesn't have to be this long drawn out thing. And I know that sometimes the pressure I put in myself was, well, I was all in on alcohol for a long. I grew up in Wisconsin. It's like, you're pretty much drinking beer by the time you're 5, and rejecting alcohol in a sense felt like rejecting my family. It felt like rejecting my culture. It felt like rejecting my upbringing. And yet I was like, okay, and I made that in a sense U-turn in the matter of months, and it was shocking to some people, but that's okay.
Yeah.
What about the cultural pressure to drink? Is that I've seen movies, like is that harder in being in England where it seems like there's like this pub culture, or is it, or you're like, what, it's the same in America, it's the same here, there's just here's what it's like?
I think it's just different. I think it's the same but different, right? Like it is, the pub culture is where you go to meet to do literally everything. When I was a law student studying here, that's where we studied. I worked in Parliament for a little bit. There's like 8 bars in Parliament. It would be like if there was like 8 bars in like the Capitol. Maybe there are, I don't know. Fact check me there. But it was like, 5 o'clock rolled around. You were drinking wine at your desk with your MP, whatever. And so it's just, it's a lot. It's definitely a lot here, but it is a lot in the US too, right? Like it just takes a different form, I think.
Yeah. So you do coaching with clients. What is, and maybe we covered this already, but what is one of the most common reasons that people are coming to you and saying, I think I need to rethink this?
Yeah. I mean, so many different reasons. I think that the reason that people reach out initially a lot of the time is because they've never said it to anybody and they're nervous and they don't want to feel like othered by their friends or family, right? That this is something that they have to deal with and they don't know anybody that's going to help them through it. And so it's just actually having someone to say that to, right? So even in like an initial discovery call with me, I mean, we go deep and emotional real fast because it's the first time that a woman, because I only coach gals, is able to say like, I think that this is no longer serving me. And stepping into that awareness is the first step of then being able to make a change. And then we go through, just like the book, all of the different reasons. And together we get to do life like trying it without alcohol, right? Because what we end up doing is we make so many assumptions about what a life as a non-drinker is going to look like without actually ever having tried it. And it's about proving those assumptions wrong, or even just being open to whether or not those assumptions are true or not. And so we do a lot of that. It's a lot of like walking through alcohol free first, doing a lot of planning. You know, I don't know when this is going to air, but like I've been this week doing a lot of like Christmas party like planning, right? Like, what are you going to say to that friend or that aunt or that person when they ask you why you're not drinking? What are you actually going to order? What time are you going to leave? How are you getting home? Let's visualize the whole thing. Because if you don't have to make those decisions like live in action, it takes the pressure off, right? Because your brain doesn't have to go into the whole decision-making fatigue thing. So it's really about like making the plans, visualizing, having these tactics of when you're home alone, and maybe that's your thing. You drink wine at home alone on the couch. I did that too. Playing the tape forward, right? Like what is it going to look like if you open the bottle of wine and have the glass? What does your day look like tomorrow and your night tonight look like if you don't have the glass? And taking the time to create that space between having the craving and actually having the drink to figure out if it's actually going to serve you, figuring out like how you want to feel tomorrow, right? And all of that stuff. And again, I know I keep coming back to grace-filled, compassion-led, but I think it's so important because there is a stigma around this still, right? That this is something that you're going to be missing out. You're going to have FOMO for the rest of your life. This is going to be miserable. You're going to have to be a hermit. And I'm just like about disproving all of that, or at least trying, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Experimenting, curiosity.
Do I still have desires at times to drink? Yes, because I think, I've said this here many times, but there's, a woman, Laura Love Hardin, who wrote that she only ever chased the white whale of addictions, and that was escapism. And so I still have a pull towards escapism, right? And that can take on many forms. And guess what? The easiest one for so many years was bourbon, right?
Yeah.
It was just an easy escape. So people are like, do you have a desire to drink? And I say, well, I have a desire for escape. Right. And my main tool and what my body used for so many years was alcohol. But I think I love that idea of envisioning, okay, if you don't pull the ripcord, if you don't do the escape hatch, what can life look like? And what I have found is that while there is that desire still, my life not drinking is so much more fulfilled. It is so much more, as Christians, we talk about the abundant life. It is so much more, life is so much more abundant, right?
Yeah.
And in ways that I never even could envision, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that is so helpful and good. And by the way, I do have to say, it's kind of funny you talked about only coaching women. Because Christy is a friend, I've signed up for her email list, and every I get emails from Christy calling me babe all the time. So it's real fun. It's real fun. Hey babe. And I joke with my wife about that. So we were talking a little bit offline before we hit record, and
can we talk about the escape thing for 1 second?
Oh, please, yes. Please.
Because I think that this is one of the things too, because I totally relate. And I hear this from gals all the time, is that they just need to like escape or, numb out or just get out of the mind swirl of being a busy mom, all the things. And I think part of this is like, we're talking about taking away alcohol. And one of the most important parts of this whole discussion is not necessarily even what we're taking away, but what we're putting in, right? Because like ultimately, I want all of us not to want to drink because we don't feel like we need to escape, right? Or we feel like we need to escape less. And so how can we do that? What can we put in? Like, the word self-care is like thrown around and it's like whatever, but it's true. You need that. You need that self-care. You need to make sure you're sleeping. You need to make sure you're in the Word if you're a Christian. Not because it's for you, right? It's not because like we have to, we get to. And I think that's so important. And then if you're still in a position where you feel like you want to escape, like what is God trying to teach you in that moment, right? Like what are those? First of all, that feeling is super hard, but it's also temporary. And like, what's God trying to teach you about the conflict in your thinking or your emotion right there, right? And it's like, we feel like we need to escape, but maybe what we really need to do is sit in that hard emotion and name it and figure out what in the world God's trying to teach us, right? Which is all way easier said than done. But yeah, we used to drink through those hard emotions because it's not easy. But sorry, you said escape and I'm like, oh, let's talk about that.
Yes, no, that is so good. And I would say it's interesting because what I use, those moments where I still want to, where I have this desire to escape is and there's no other way to say this, like, and I hope it doesn't sound cheesy or corny, but it's like, I have learned that those are the times that I most desperately need to turn to Jesus, right?
Yeah.
And I do. And what I have found is such a deeper relationship with him because I'm using those times to do that. And I would say that until I got sober, I never really understood fasting, and now I understand it, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Because the idea of fasting, traditionally you're fasting food, is when your stomach, when you have this physical longing, you use that as a reminder to turn to God, right?
Mm-hmm,
Well, now that I'm fasting alcohol, when I have that desire, I use it as a reminder to turn to God, right?
Yeah.
And so I think now I fully understand the importance and need and why God calls us to fast, because it is this reminder to turn to him.
Totally. Love that. So good.
So thank you for bringing that up. I want to get to something that we were talking about offline before we hit record. And that is, I think you and I have, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure you didn't do any 12-step program. Mm-hmm. I did not. And what I am learning in my journey is that within the sober community, there is the words and the belief that say there are multiple pathways of recovery, and you don't have to do a 12-step program. You don't have this. And yet, I think a lot of people think that that's the only thing that maybe they think about when they think about sobriety is a 12-step program. And I am not anti-12-step program.
Mm-hmm. Me neither.
But we didn't do it, and I think there are so many people who maybe they're not drawn to that, or maybe they've given it a try, and it's not for them, and they feel less than. They feel, and maybe they just give up on sobriety. What do you say to those people who, are like, I just don't feel a draw to do a 12-step program. Is there hope for me?
Yeah. First of all, there's so much hope for you. So much hope for you. And I relate 100%. I didn't feel powerless over alcohol because I came across 2 Corinthians 12:9, and his power was made perfect in my weakness. Yes, I was weak around alcohol. Alcohol had gotten me. But when I figured out how to turn to him, how to surrender to him, how to rewire my thoughts, all of that, I felt so incredibly powerful because of what he had done in me. And so there's bits and pieces like that. Like, I know your book is your new book, Confessions of a Christian Alcoholic. Like, I don't relate to that, even that label, right? Like,
Right.
And so that's another thing. If that label doesn't serve you, don't use it. If it serves you and you feel empowered by it, oh my gosh, go for it. You know what I mean? Like, whatever it is. And that's really controversial, because I think the 12-step methodology is that there is only one way, and there isn't another way to freedom. And if you don't kind of like do it their way, then you're going to go back to drinking. Right. And so that can be really scary, and it can be really, really, it cannot feel good then when someone like me or you comes into the room and says, hey, there's another way. You can actually open your Bible, do it this way, rewire your thinking. Let's figure out like how to do this with grace and compassion and no labels and no counting days. And so some people don't like that. I think there's room for all of it.
Yeah.
Take what works and leave what doesn't. The gals, and I've coached a lot of them who have been to tried AA and it didn't resonate for them. And a lot of that had to do with the women or men that were in their initial group were not people. They're people. They couldn't see themselves in their stories. I also have coached women who really like AA. I have a client who still goes because she has found her tribe, and she doesn't like the label, but she goes because she likes the women there. And so the main point of all of this is find your community, find your people. Don't do this alone. And if the first couple rooms you walk into, those people aren't your people, keep going, because they are out there, and there is not one way to, I don't even love the word recovery. There's not one way. There's all the different ways that make God in you be able to find freedom, if that makes sense, And like, I'm so excited for your book, because I don't think there's a lot of books by men, like, and I'm assuming it's for men and women, but I have so many women that come to me and they're like, what about my husband? Where's the book for him? And I'm like, he's writing it. Just hold on.
Thank you. Yes.
So yeah, that was a tangent, rabbit hole, all the things.
No, that's so good. And I think it's funny because I struggled with whether to use the word alcoholic as well.
Yeah.
Right. And I ultimately decided to use it, and I'm fine with using it for myself, because what I tell people is I use it as a hook.
Yeah. Totally.
Not a bait and switch, but a hook.
Yeah.
Because, chapter 2 in my book is all about explaining why we don't like, you have to get past the word alcoholic, right?
Yeah.
That has a certain idea of what this means. It's alcohol use disorder now, and it's a spectrum, and you have to view it as a spectrum. Mm-hmm. But Confessions of Someone on the Alcohol Use Disorder Spectrum is not it's not catchy. Yeah. Right?
I mean, a lot of people don't like the word sober, by the way, which I learned later. Like, it doesn't hold any sort of like weight or emotional pull for me. So I'm like, it doesn't bother me. But some people are like, that sounds boring. Why would you use the word sober? I'm like, I don't know. But when you search it on Google, you know what you're talking about.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Right. I mean, here's what I learned, especially early on. I had an old mentor of mine who was rough around the edges in the best way possible, and he's like, John, opinions are like buttholes. Everyone's got them, and they all stink, And what I have found out is that there are a lot of opinions. On recovery, to use the word that you talked about sobriety, about whatever.
Yeah.
And I think I've been, man, I don't know if I should say this, Christy.
You can always edit it out.
That's true. I think I've been most disappointed by the people who are about 12-step programs, because they are the ones that I have found who are the most rigid. Mm-hmm. And again, I have nothing against them. I've recommended people go to them. Mm-hmm. And I'm actively going to have people from 12-step programs on this podcast.
Yeah.
Right? That's but yet the most pushback I've gotten is not from people like you. It's from people in those camps. And that has eaten at me.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I got Go Die You See You Next Tuesday on Instagram. Yep. because what I was talking about was going to kill people. So, yes. Yeah.
Yeah, and listen, if you're listening to this and you're, part of a 12-step program and want to come on, like, reach out to me, right?
Yeah,
like,
me. I have a podcast too. I'd love to talk to you.
Right. So, anyways, well, Christy, if people want to maybe get your coaching, obviously, if they want to buy your book, where is the best place for them to go to kind of get the lay of the land of what you're offering and how to get in touch with you?
Yeah, so everything's on my website, lovelifesober.com, and you'll find links to the book and coaching and all that good stuff there. I'm on Instagram at lovelifesober with Christy. And when is this going to air?
This will air in 2025.
Okay.
And maybe fall.
Okay.
Summer, fall, spring,
Okay, summer, fall, spring. Okay, so I also have an amazing community, and you can find all of that there. I also have a podcast, But Jesus Drank Wine, and other stories that kept us stuck. So lots of different places. And I was just going to say, that's why I asked the question about the time, is we've got a January 40-day fast launching in my community, which we're going to coach through. But we're going to do that regularly. We're going to do it for Lent. Right. We're going to keep doing it. So it doesn't really matter. But yeah, those are all the places.
Well, thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for talking with me. I've just loved the little friendship that we've developed through this kind of sobriety writers group that a mutual friend of ours put together, and it's been so wonderful. So thank you. Go to lovelifesober.com, especially if you are a woman. And if you are a man and want to be called babe in email, I guess you can go to it.
Yeah. Otherwise, I can wait for your book.
Yeah. Christy, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks, John. Thank you.
Isn't Christy great? If you enjoyed that as much as I enjoyed having that conversation, go ahead and pick up her book, Love Life Sober. If you're looking for a reset, it's especially geared towards women, and I think it'll be really helpful. I had a chance to read through it, and I'm a man, and I found it helpful. So go pick up Love Life Sober, and you can also check out her website if maybe you're looking for some coaching and some one-on-one coaching that can be helpful. So man, Christy is so great. We chat. I never used WhatsApp until I met Christy, because I don't know, apparently it's easier when you're over across on the pond. And so I always get these voice memo WhatsApps from Christy, and I look forward to them. They're great. So as always, check out our partner, Life Audio. Go to lifeaudio.com and you can check out some other great podcasts. They have been such an amazing partner, and I have thoroughly enjoyed working with them to produce this podcast every week. Love you all. I'll see you here again. And I say that see you here, by the way. If you are interested in watching each episode, you can. You can go to my Substack, The Veritas Daily, and subscribers there, paying subscribers, get the chance to watch each episode. There's no ads. It's usually shorter in a good way, because I don't have to go through all the introductions and whatnot. So if you want to watch each episode, go to theveritasdaily.com and you can watch every single episode of the podcast. We'll see you here next week.